Welcome to Reels on the Rocks, the show where your host Whiskey and Sweet Tea discuss film from the unpretentious perspective. In tonight's episode, we discuss the holiday horror comedy, Krampus. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and as always, please be advised that spoilers are ahead.
Guten Tag, loyal listeners. It's Whiskey and Sweet Tea back with another horrifying Christmas classic.
Only you would pick a Christmas classic that could be classified as horrifying. And in keeping with the theme, listeners, because it is the holidays and we are back with our families, you may hear some of my minions squeaking in the background, so just be aware of that ahead of time.
Yeah, and I actually haven't left yet, so I'm here with just the ghosts in my apartment. Oh. But anyway, so before we get into today's film, I am drinking appropriately an Apothic Inferno red wine. Inferno because we are going to Christmas hell today. It's a whiskey barrel aged, right? It's a whiskey barrel aged wine, so it's put in a whiskey barrel for 60 days, and it was brewed in 2018.
Oh,
so
vintage.
Looks cool. I bought it because of the whole hellish sort of theme, and the label looks nice, which I'm basically an animal with bad taste. So if the label looks cool, then that is, I'll buy it. Anyway, what are you drinking, T?
So, I'm doing something less dangerous. I went to my local Target and I got some of their apple cider. So I brought it back and then I added a whole bunch of extra kind of like spices into it, and like whole cloves and everything like that. And I kind of superheated it on my stove, so I have a nice hot cider going on, because this is probably also one of the last weekends before Christmas I'll be able to have a hot beverage, because it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be cold for Christmas. So I was like, eggnog or hot cider, and I was like, hot cider I feel like fits the theme of this movie sort of better.
Somewhat, yeah, for sure. So anyway, now let's get into the movie. So I decided to talk about Krampus this year, since, well, what was my Die Hard last year, because you had never seen it. So since I'm the resident horror buff here, obviously I figured we'd talk about an obvious one that I don't know if it's anyone's favorite Christmas movie. I'm sure it has its fans. I honestly have kind of a complicated history, not even history, like we'll get into it, but so it's a spooky Christmas movie.
Krampus and whiskey just changed the relationship status to it's complicated.
It's complicated. But so I guess my first question is, are you familiar with Krampus outside of this movie, or before I even suggested this movie?
I was familiar with both the film and sort of the lore of Krampus. Of course, as we have touched on many a times, my first run-in with the lore of Krampus was in American Dad.
Oh yes. See, so that's, I guess, so going into this, like I was already like a big horror fan when this came out. It wasn't even that long ago. This came out in 2015.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I ever saw of Krampus is like in, I think, elementary school. We did like a holidays around the globe kind of deal.
I remember
like it was
that.
probably like third grade or something, and it was just like, this is how they celebrate Christmas in different countries. And I remembered Krampus because I was just like, wow, that is one of the most messed up things. If anyone listening has never heard of Krampus, either this film or like for some reason they don't know the tradition, it's in the Germanic part of Europe, so Austria, Germany, that whole section. Krampus is supposed to be like the entity that punishes bad children, and he has like a normal, so he looks kind of goat-like, almost like the devil. He carries a switch and like also a basket on his back that he like takes children away with, and he mostly, for the most part, just spanks kids that are jerks.
You
And I
know,
remember thinking as a kid, wow, that's dark, but also that's kind of awesome. Like if you think of any kids that were like bullying you or something, or just I don't know. It's an interesting concept, and it's also like Krampus has his own day besides Christmas that he comes and like punishes and like gets it out of the way before Christmas. And then I continued because I'm sure people heard of this in the entertainment industry and thought it was kind of a wildly dark idea. There were several cartoon shows. American Dad, you said you saw. I remember the Venture Brothers on Cartoon Network had a bit with Krampus. Like even after that, as a kid, I remember like lots of cartoon shows making fun of this like very devilish character that's so antithetical to what most people think of with Christmas. So I was well aware of Krampus, the character, the entity, and then when this trailer dropped in, I'm guessing 2015, maybe it was as early as 2014, but I thought it looked really neat. I was kind of anticipating it. It was probably like my Christmas movie I was looking forward to that year. And then the thing was like the rating dropped, like so or not, it didn't drop, like they released that it was PG-13, and I was kind of like, oh, it's probably not going to be very scary. And so like I ended up not seeing it in theaters and then renting it later, and my opinion kind of shifted the first time I saw it to this is not really that scary, but it's like a good family movie. It's kind of on the same level as something like Gremlins. And that's
well,
kind
I
of
mean, to be fair, Gremlins, everybody was upset about how mismarketed Gremlins was when it first came out. They were like, oh, it's like a kid's movie. And then people see it and it's like, it's all disturbing. And they're like, why would you say this is a kid's movie?
And see, I actually didn't know that because I was aware of Gremlins ever since I was a kid. I
Yeah.
remember, in fact, the first time I encountered that was actually eating at a Planet Hollywood as a little kid, and they had one of the
Oh,
scary Gremlins up on the wall, and I was like, "What
that
is that?"
that's
And so I was like
nostalgia in a
aware of
bottle.
that, but I also wasn't born yet when the movie came out, so I didn't experience the marketing. So in
See,
that respect, you're absolutely right. They definitely showed what kind of movie this was going to be.
see, this is the
And
benefit of having parents who worked in theaters.
right? And I guess like one fun fact I'll bring up before I get into the nitty gritty stuff is that actually because Krampus is a will not celebrate, he in places like Austria and Germany and stuff, they still have like Krampus night. This actually was supposed to come out on November 25th of 2015, but they pushed the release date back to December 4th to actually coincide on the same day as
Oh, that's cool.
Krampusnacht, the Austrian festival, so that it would like premiere on Krampus night. So that was kind of neat. So going into how it was received, I mean, it was well reviewed. I remember when it came out, I think it had like somewhere in the 80% on Rotten Tomatoes and stuff. But money wise, it was pretty lucrative, but also pretty in line with what you'd expect with like a low level or low budget horror movie. Excuse me. The budget was not much. It was only 15 million. Opening weekend, it already made back its budget at 16 million. Gross in the U.S. was 42 million and worldwide 61 million. So, kind of in the same way, I would compare it to like when we talk about slashers, the budget being really low and then
Right.
it making most of its money opening weekend and then going on, because 61 million's not a lot, but it's also it's essentially like four times as much as its budget. So
Well,
for what they
that actually doesn't surprise me because when I was watching it, especially with the setting and everything, it reminds me a lot of like a bottle episode, like like the TV shows do to save money, where they set everything in one location. It
yeah.
kind of reminded me of that a lot, so I can totally see this being a low budget that quickly made its budget back.
It's funny you bring up television because we'll get into this when we talk about the ending, but it actually kind of reminds me of sort of like a Twilight Zone ish sort of television episode,
I
but
can
stretched
totally
out
see
into
that.
like a
Yeah.
90-minute movie. But so going in, I actually did not. I didn't know this when it came out. I honestly, like, we talked about this in an episode either when I was talking about, I think it was in our Flopbuster thing, like the little short episode that we did where I just talked about movies that didn't do well at the box office,
Yeah.
but went on. So the director's Michael Dougherty, and he hasn't done a ton of directing. He's done a lot of writing, but directing wise, he's really famous for Trick or Treat, which is a really popular horror movie. It's a what you call it?
It's like an anthology movie.
Thank you. Exactly. Yeah. We talked about that. It's, a bunch of spooky Halloween sort of things all tied together with this like character of this like monster kid who wears like a jack-o'-lantern on his head. So this is that guy. So he did Trick or Treat. I found out, in case anyone's listening and doesn't know and is a fan of Michael Dougherty or Trick or Treat, that Trick or Treat 2 was announced. So that's actually coming. So that's cool. And then most recently, he also... Huh?
I said sponsor us, Trick or Treat too.
Yeah,
Whiskey would love it. It would make his day.
No, seriously, man, I'd be happy to go out and interview somebody. So Michael Dougherty also recently directed Godzilla King of the Monsters, if anyone has been following the whole kaiju verse with Warner Brothers, and I thought it was pretty good. So that's mostly what he's directed. Some other things, but those are the big things of note that he's done. So he's not like super well known, but he was famous for Trick or Treat, and I think that probably went over my head when this came out, but I'm sure a lot of horror fans were like, oh, it's the Trick or Treat guy, oh my god. And he also did help write the screenplay with two other writers, Todd Casey and Zach Shields. Anyone who has seen this will note there's quite a big all-star cast. We've got Adam Scott, which a lot of people would recognize from Parks and Rec, among several other things. He's a big comedic actor. Toni Collette's in this, which T will remember from Hereditary. You got David Koechner, who's also a big comedic actor. A lot of people will probably know him from Anchorman as like the sports guy. Conchata Ferrell is the grumpy alcoholic grandmother. Krista Stadler is Omi, like the German grandmother. And then, fun fact, did not know this last time I saw the movie, or quite frankly, even after watching the movie, but Justin Roiland, the co-creator of Rick and Morty, actually voices one of the evil dwarves in this.
I could see that. That tracks.
I'm not surprised. I'm also like, but I guess Rick and Morty had come out by then, but I guess it was around season 2. So I don't know. It's just fun little fact for anyone who likes Rick and Morty or just would like to blow someone's mind with that. Going into this, I was kind of curious who did the special effects, because I actually thought they were pretty well done, and surprise, surprise, it's Weta. A lot of people will know them from Lord of the Rings. They had a hand in the makeup effects, visual effects, and even the costume design.
What? It's not ILM for once?
No, it's Weta. It's the Lord of the Rings guys over in New Zealand. So there's that. There's actually some good practical effects in this, which they had a hand in. I didn't realize Weta did so many things. Like, I knew they were visual effects, but I didn't know that they did like makeup and costume design too, or puppetry for that matter. And then another fun fact, there is a naughty version of this movie available on Blu-ray that essentially just contains, cut scenes that would have made the film not rated PG-13. So
they call it a naughty version?
That's what they call it, and which I'm strange. Maybe they should have called it the cursed version or something. Naughty makes it sound like it's a sex comedy or something.
Right, like it's more like there's more like love scenes or something.
Right. So anyway, it sounded like you had a lot of thoughts about this one, so I'm very curious to hear your perspective on this film.
So this movie I had seen like the trailer, so I knew of its existence. I remember when it came out. Didn't see it until now. I only really kind of knew of the poster, which I was like, why is this the poster? Until the very end. Then I was like, oh, that makes sense. So this was actually kind of surprising. The first parts of it, before everything really kind of settles in, it reminds me a lot of, I don't know if you've ever seen Christmas Vacation.
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean, I was just like, this is like, is this gonna be like if Christmas Vacation was a horror film. That's kind of what it became for
Yeah.
me, because it was like we even had the sort of hicky sort of, relatives who kind of like live out in the middle of nowhere show up, which in Christmas Vacation is cousin Eddie and his weird family. And I think even in Christmas Vacation she makes some comment about they shouldn't breed or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was very comfortable going, like, just starting this film, because I'm like, this is immediately what I thought of going into it. And then when, which to me that actually really made it more interesting for me, because it took it, like I said, even though these were original characters, because that kind of I don't want to say formula because it has a negative connotation to it, but that sort of arrangement had already kind of been established before. It was interesting to kind of be like, okay, how would these characters have reacted in this situation, which I mean is kind of like what horror basically is for me. But I don't. To me, it was kind of like taking characters I know and making and turning them into and putting them into a horror film. So I thought that was really, really cool.
So part of the reason my mind changed when I did rent this years ago is that it became apparent that this was, I think I already may have known this going in, and it kind of the it's not a straight horror movie, it's a horror comedy. And we've touched on that before. I feel like we reviewed a horror comedy on the show that maybe I'm forgetting, maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you not remember Killing of a Sacred Deer?
Ha. Well, and I guess Freddy 2,
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street
I was about
2
to say
is...
the homoerotic one.
Yes, exactly. So I guess we haven't really touched on one that was deliberately intended to be funny, but after I saw this...
What is it called? Death Becomes Her.
That's a good example. I wouldn't... I don't know if I even consider it, like, horror comedy. It's spooky. This one, like, we'll get into it next season, hint, hint, but I've got another very famous horror comedy in mind. But it's one of those genres, it's one of my favorites. It's like chocolate and peanut butter. It's two things that go really well together, unexpectedly. And I feel like it's a great thing for people who don't normally like scary movies, because there's a bit of levity to it. So that's part of the reason I didn't so much mind that it wasn't scary when I finally saw this, because I was like, oh, it's kind of goofy, intentionally goofy. And I think maybe it's been so many years it's hard to remember what my thoughts were going into it, but maybe I thought that it was trying to be like a straight horror film or something. It's hard to know what I was thinking back in those days, especially when you re-look up the trailer and I guess you have trouble separating the sort of goofier elements of the movie. And it is sort of it's hard. Christmas is one of those wholesome holidays that's so wholesome that it's actually hard to take the concept of making it scary seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you can have like a Christmas slasher or something, but trying to actually make it a scary movie would almost be just sort of like setting the story during Christmas. Yeah. I don't think you could really, because it comes off as goofy no matter how seriously you take it.
Like The Conjuring 2. That's set at Christmas.
Exactly.
But it's just because the plot exists independently of the time of year.
And the fact that I forgot that it was set during Christmas kind of highlights my point, that is like a scary movie that's set during Christmas as opposed to like a scary Christmas movie.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Right.
Like, there's some movies that, like, Die Hard's an example, where even though it's, like, an action movie, for some reason, the fact that it's set during Christmas is very pronounced. Another example in the superhero genre for me is Batman Returns. Is it a Christmas movie? Not necessarily, but the Christmassy elements of it are so pronounced that a lot of people consider it a Christmas movie, and I often immediately think of all the Christmas imagery in that movie, even though it's a Batman movie.
Right.
So, yeah. So this is an interesting case where, like, it's not scary. I do think it could be scary to a younger viewer, but it works, again, as like Gremlins, as kind of a more family-friendly scary movie that's very funny. So it's, whether you're a small kid or you just don't like scary movies, it's very palatable because you got a lot of funny moments.
So
pretty much everything in the first act, it's just like a straight comedy. Like all of these people. The alcoholic grandma on the mother's side is
I
pretty funny.
literally hated everyone in their family. I was like, I will have no problem seeing any of these people die, except for maybe the father and mother, and the sister. Basically, his immediate family was fine, but everybody else just sucked.
Yeah,
I have no problem seeing any of them die.
it was mostly like the mother's side of the family. Like the mother was a little bit obnoxious. Like in the kitchen being like, "Oh, please act happy," whatever. The grandma on the father's side, Omi, she's very nice for reasons we'll get into. And the father's really nice, and yeah, the sister's really nice too. I forgot that she was not like your typical like kind of bitchy older sister
like
teen
they
character. Like she was genuinely nice to her little brother, and I
Yeah,
forgot about that since I'd seen it last.
well, like, as I remember, there were some parts of it where they were just like, they would kind of just do like a little bickering thing, but it was like harmless. But like for the most part, when when it was on the line, she was like defending her brother and stuff. And I was like,
Exactly. And I forgot about that again. Like I have not seen this since it came out, since whenever I rented it. So that was probably either it must have been like after 2015, so maybe early 2016, because now you can stream stuff when it comes out, but
well, like,
I don't believe that was the case at the time. So obviously, it must have been after. For some reason, it feels like I saw it when it came out, but I know that I rented it on a streaming platform, so I couldn't have seen it when it came out. It had to have been months later. Jeez, my memory. But and yeah, like I remembered her being more the atypical jerk kind of older sister, like being meaner to her brother, but not really, not at all. The only like hilariously silly thing about her was that her boyfriend was like a stoner who had a candy cane bong.
I forgot about that.
I was like, oh boy, of course they gotta have the obligatory like stoner guy in the movie. But
well, when the movie opens, they have the whole scenes of just people shopping, which I'm like,
dude, it's got one of the best. That whole opening credits sequence is genius, especially like the whole Black Friday angle, just because that's like the whole point, right? It's like Krampus is here to punish people who don't live up to the Christmas spirit, or they hate Christmas, or just like he's like a figure that punishes people for bad behavior. And what better example of bad holiday behavior is there than the craziness that happens on Black Friday?
Okay, well, technically, Black Friday doesn't count because it's in November.
I mean, it's the beginning of the Christmas season.
I'm sorry,
people are buying Christmas presents.
Christmas
and
for
a lot of the
Christmas for me doesn't start till December 1st. I'm not saying I don't go on Black Friday. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm sure you don't
Christmas.
go and drop kick people.
You know what? Mind your
UTs.
business, Whiskey. Mind your own business.
Oh man, Krampus is coming for UT. But so, and I guess we'll get into the plot now. Like for anyone, we always recommend you guys see these movies, or maybe if you like the show or follow along or something, like maybe watch the movie and then check out what we have to think, something like that. We tend to cover movies that we recommend anyway. Mm-hmm. But for any of you who that might not be the case, the film essentially follows.
Whiskey is an open-minded bitch. That's why. That's why we recommend things. I'm usually the one that's like, no. I think you've only turned down one movie, and it was because you had no idea who would want to see it.
Yes,
not because it was bad. I think
I've given a few more non-recommends, but anyway. So this is essentially about a family that is hosting the mother's side of the family to visit for the holidays at their house. They do it every year. It's a miserable experience for everyone involved. Everyone's really mean to each other, and this little boy still believes in Santa, and he's writing him like his letter, what he wants for Christmas. And due to some, family feuding, he ends up saying like, oh, I don't even think he says anything. Essentially, he rips up his letter from Santa and throws it out the window. Which now, watching the movie, I'm like, I don't know if that warrants a call from Krampus. That's just kind of...
Well, because
he's angry.
It symbolizes his loss of Christmas spirit. That's
for
why.
sure.
It's kind of very Mary Poppins-esque too,
Oh yeah, no, I actually got that vibe too. I just felt like why is he getting punished? Like
Well, I mean, if you
I
think,
feel like it's understandable that he's a little upset, especially with everyone making fun of him for writing letters to Santa. Like, I don't know, but
I actually have some questions about that particular thing, why him, sort of thing. But go on.
yes. So anyway, it summons Krampus, nightmarish, Christmas styled tomfoolery ensues, and the family is picked off one by one until the little boy is left. And we will put a pin in that until we discuss the ending, because I think that is
Yes, the
a
ending does
discussion in
warrant
its
some
own.
discussion. Yes, it does.
So you were saying why him? I kind of agree. So what are your thoughts
Well,
on that?
because okay, so I'm trying to do this without getting too much into the ending.
Right,
Because
right.
if you think about it, not only is it affecting him, at least the way it's portrayed in the movie now. I don't know if this is within with that said, without getting too much within, I don't know. I'm trying not to get into the discussion of the ending, but I'm trying to if this is within his own snow globe realm. But
Hint,
like if,
hint.
for example, they find the snow plow. They have the guy that was pulled through the window of the snow plow. They go to her boyfriend's house, and they've already been visited by Krampus, so they're gone. And then for some reason, the DHL guy, he doesn't get abducted, but he's frozen. So I'm kind of trying to I'm trying to figure out, was it really ever just because, especially,
We'll save all that for the
yeah,
ending. Because I have my own theories. But yeah, like I guess like if you mean like why him, like the little boy, I going into it again this time I was kind of like I don't know if he really deserved it as much as his family deserved, or at least his extended family deserved it, because they were the ones who were being really disrespectful. They were being welcomed into someone else's home, and all they could do was just criticize everything. And maybe it's because I'm like 5 or 6 years older at this point, but like it just came off like, wow, these guys are clearly the jerks in this situation. Like
right,
the
like this is like reading that r/am I the antagonist post, and you're like,
yeah,
clearly, it's like, clearly you are.
yeah, it's and even it's funny again because excuse me, Tony Collette's character, the mother, she it's her side of the family, and at least in the host family's case, like she's also like the most negative one, so it's just funny. It seems to be like her whole side of the gene pool. But everyone else is super nice, even the teenage sister who's a bit snarky and, makes fun of her brother a little bit. Like, she's not that bad. The father's super wholesome. His little pep talk after dinner, I felt like it's sad that it didn't do the trick. And then Omi's like really nice. I always found it funny, and I obviously they make fun of it in the movie, or there's a joke about it. But I found it funny that she only speaks German except for that one point in the movie. Like, and again, like they make a joke, like I think David Koechner is like the one who's like, I knew she spoke English or something. But I still, even I remember thinking this when I watched it, and I remember thinking like, and I think it now after rewatching it, but I'm just like, why does she do that? It's never it's the only people who speak German are the little boy and the father, and she never explains why it's weird. And I know it's done, I guess, maybe to like show the bond between the little boy and the father and her or something, but it's just very funny that it's like she does not speak English except for when she's talking about her run-in with Krampus when she was a little girl.
Which I'm also like, what are the chances of that happening again? So, well, but I forgot what I was to say. Go on.
I mean, you're right. What are the chances? But I mean, that's the nature of a horror movie, right? It's like that spooky campfire story, and I was terrified of the day he would come back to finish me off.
Oh my god! So you're saying his Krampus is like Michael Myers?
Sort of, except he's more. He doesn't necessarily kill you.
No, he just drops
ending,
you, and
but,
drops you into a boiling pit of lava. The usual.
yeah, he's also again like for the most part like some of the people he's picking off I feel bad for, but there's that sort of Schadenfreude sort of again like a slasher movie. There when he's picking off some of the characters, you're kind of rooting for him too because they deserve a bit of punishment. Which again, like in the idea of Krampus outside of this movie, like that's the idea, right? Like you never imagine that you are the one who's being targeted. Even kids who are jerks aren't going to think like, "Oh, I'm not that naughty" or whatever. Like that's why, like as a little kid, I wasn't like terrified when I heard of Krampus, like when I was doing that, because you never expect yourself to be the one who's the bad person, right?
Right.
So I feel like that was kind of a somewhat of a missed opportunity. Like I wish that more of the characters had been kind of mean, because that's sort of most of the fun is like watching Krampus get them. You know what I mean? Especially like that's some of the best parts of the movie is when he's like stalking people and leaping from rooftop to rooftop. The sound design was ridiculous. I forgot how good it was, especially in surround sound where you're hearing the hooves and everything like that. And just in general, the creature design, and it's also got a little bit of like subtle stuff. Like one of my favorite kind of spooky things is at the very beginning. It's like, oh, there's a snowman out there. Who built that? And it's like that's a little off-putting, especially that since the snowman's like really big and he's like looking directly at the house and he's kind of like badly made and stuff, and it's little thing, like at that point in the movie you're not thinking much.
I like that too. I thought it was a nice kind of creepy sort of omen, but they kept showing up. Like more and more of them would show up. So
that was the elves, though. That was them watching the house, right? Like, so
see, because I thought those are the because I thought I was like, oh,
he has
every
like
time
evil elves that do his bidding or whatever.
Well,
kind of the way Santa has like nice elves. He's got, which is not, I don't believe in the Krampus myth in like Germanic lore or whatever. Like, I don't think he has his own little helpers, but I think that was just kind of a funny, like, oh, Santa has elves. Let's give him little like demonic elves.
Well, no, what I was gonna say is like about the snowman showing up is it's like at first they kind of start to each show up one by one after somebody disappears.
Yes.
So I thought that was like gonna be something, and then it didn't. So I was kind of like, oh, because that was really interesting. I don't know. There was a really bad movie made a couple years ago that was based off of a really good book about a serial killer who leaves snowman. It was called The Snowman.
Oh, The Snowman.
Yeah, the movie
Everyone
was terrible.
remembers The Snowman.
But the book was great, and so I was kind of expecting sort of something like that to happen. I mean, I didn't think he was going to be like a psycho killer, but that sort of thing. And then it was kind of just like the snowmen were just kind of just dropped. And I was like, oh.
No, plenty of other film critic types on the internet have torn that movie to shreds. I didn't see it. I watched some reviews.
Dude, there were scenes missing from the movie. That's how bad it was.
All I remember, well, because I haven't seen the movie, but because I'm not familiar with the book, I just remember when that movie came out, there were all these posters around Hollywood of like, I gave you all the clues, Mr. Policeman, and I was like, what is this? Like, it's terrible marketing on top of that, because that's all it said. It didn't say that it was a movie or anything. I was just like, what is this advertisement? But I guess like what you're saying kind of goes into, I guess we'll get into sort of my light criticism of the movie. Mm-hmm. Surprise, Whiskey doesn't absolutely love this. I don't hate it though. I don't think it's bad. I just and I was kind of surprised when I first saw this. I really like the first act, and I really like the ending that we're going to talk about. But at a certain point in the middle of this movie, my brain turns off, and I have trouble paying attention to anything that's going on. That's the way it was when I first watched it, and I was thinking, oh, maybe it was just because I was still in college or something. And maybe I'll enjoy it more this time. But still, like, as we're well into the plot and Krampus has picked off a few people and we're getting into kind of the more, insane stuff, living cookies, and some really spectacular practical effects. The Jack in the Box is one of the coolest things in the movie.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I get disengaged and I really can't put my finger on it. And I feel like maybe the movie goes on a little long, or maybe which is crazy to say because it's pretty much exactly 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But there's that or something. Like it might also be that there's like the teenage daughter gets picked off within the first 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I thought she was a little early in the film too. And then when they go out and they explore and they find her boyfriend's house and everything,
Yeah.
I actually thought for what was going to happen is there was going to be they were going to be end up being separated. There was going to be a party of them out and a party of them at home, and kind of like a two sort of front line situation. But then that didn't happen.
I honestly think it's a pacing issue because thinking back to the timeline of events, she gets picked off very quickly. Then there's like nothing for a while. Then one of the kind of chubby, not so bright kid gets picked off by getting the chain wrapped around him, and then we get the exposition of Krampus.
Yeah,
And then it's like the family fighting off a bunch of monsters, and then within like 10 minutes of the ending, pretty much every family member gets picked off, like boom, 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 boom.
yeah,
And then like I think it's a pacing issue. I think
yeah,
honestly the reason I tune out is because it should be kind of more consistent. Like every period of time it's like, ooh, another one bites the dust kind of thing. But it feels really like it gets into it quickly, then it lets off and there's nothing happening. Then after the second person gets taken, it's like it becomes almost like Home Alone, where the family's like defending the house, and it feels like a different movie at that point.
yeah,
And it's very funny. I love watching David Koechner fight a bunch of living cookies and stuff. And again, all the monsters and stuff in the attic. Very cool practical effects. Again, not a
yeah.
lot of CGI with that. And then the ending just comes rushing in. So I feel like that's my biggest problem with this is that it's just strange pacing. Again, it's and it in a either it should have as a horror comedy. It should either be like pretty funny consistently or pretty scary consistently or a mix of the both.
Right.
And there's just a lot of like nothing happening, especially
Yeah.
for the first like 2/3 of the movie. It's like I would imagine people are like waiting, especially again like the when the teenage daughter gets taken. That's actually one of the cooler sequences in the movie. So I would think that that would like pump people up, like, oh whoa, if that's the first person getting taken by Krampus, what's next?
Yeah.
And then there's nothing for like another 30 minutes. And then the bit with the kid getting yanked up the chimney is pretty cool. And then again, nothing for like a good 20 minutes. And then from that point on, it's just nonstop action. And by that time, your brain is just turned off.
Right. Like I feel like if I feel like maybe having a character disappear quickly was important to really kind of get them into the something's not right here situation mindset. That I get. But so and then I kind of like sort of the slow burn of suspense with that. I think like 30 minutes of nothing happening really. And then when they take the one kid, and then I'm like, that's when everything should have started snowballing at that point. And then, like you said, again, they took another 20-minute break before really anything happened. So
It kind of reminds me of like in screenwriting class, you've got the rising action. You've got that like graph they show you, and it's not just screenwriting. You could apply this to novels or whatever,
right,
but there's the inciting incident and things keep escalating, right?
yeah,
This it's almost like pumping gas and then the brake. It's like a little bit more on the gas and then hit the brake.
it's like me learning
You
to
know,
drive, basically.
yeah, instead it's like there should just be kind of consistently more stuff happening, but instead it's like a lot happens and then nothing happens.
Yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with nothing happening. Like that's the whole, you need to have some character development and stuff. It's just it feels very odd the way it was structured.
yeah, I will agree with you. And then there was some other stuff, and then I just feel like there was also some problems with the mythology of the
Yes.
character. I'm still not sure why he took everybody and then he left the daughter behind. After he took two of them at the same time, but he leaves one of them behind. That never made any sense to me.
Wait, do you mean the daughters that are kind of like the ones that the joke is like, oh, the father wanted them to be sons?
Yeah.
Well, she did not get taken. They cut her out of the Jack in the Box snake thing.
That's what happened, because I thought they just saw her laying in the attic.
That's the other problem I have is the attic. The special effects are really good, but the way the action is shot is very confusing because I understood that she was cut out of the Jack in the Box, but I don't think that you ever see it happen. You don't see like them cut it open and her fall out.
Yeah.
Like you know that they go to the Jack in the Box with like a hatchet or a knife or something, and later on she's out and she looks kind of disheveled or something. So I understood that she was cut out, but they
I
don't
just,
explicitly show it.
yeah, because
And then there's also the bat-like thing that tackles the mother, I think.
yeah.
And the way that it's shot is just very confusing to even see. It's very dark. The camera angles are kind of strange, so you don't really see what's actually happening.
That's low budget
Um,
for you.
yeah, I mean it's just it's interesting, especially like I don't know. It's a frustrating movie. I don't think it's bad
Oh
per
no,
se,
it's
but
not
I just
bad.
think they're
It
yeah.
it could have been
And
better.
so, and I guess let's go ahead and get into the ending as a matter of fact, because I think that's one of the most interesting things about the movie. Like the two reasons I ended up digging this when I first saw it and still think it's pretty good is one because I realized it was a horror comedy, and two because of this ending. So what happens is that the little boy he goes to Krampus and begs him like I'm sorry, I didn't mean what I said, blah blah blah. And Krampus seems to not care. And
Yeah.
actually it's funny, I saw this with my family around Thanksgiving because might as well while we're all there and everything. And my sister actually loves that aspect of the movie where Krampus laughs at the boy
Oh my god, your sister
because she
sounds
likes it
mean.
because it's so it feels like a hallmark. Like if that had been how it ended, where he begs for his like forgiveness and Krampus just allows him to like go back to his life, it wouldn't be a horror movie or a horror comedy. Like there has to and again like he's supposed to like punish people, right? So there was something kind of like cynically funny about him just not taking the kids seriously, especially after he gives this like very oh, I'll never, oh, Christmas is important and I'm so sorry and stuff. And there's just, I'm with my sister. I think it's kind of funny, especially because, like, based on what you would think from a Christmas movie, you would expect him to show some pity.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that happens. He laughs at the boy, and then eventually he grabs him, and there's like this big whirling pit that he throws him into, and you think, oh no, he's like throwing him into hell or something. And then the boy wakes up, and it's Christmas, and everything seems to be okay, and it's not even clear if his family ever remembers anything that happens. And then, as they're opening presents, the boy unwraps a mysterious gift left to him, and it's the bell from Krampus's coat or his whip or whatever. And it
Yeah.
says Krampus on, and suddenly all of the family seem to recognize it. So then you know, oh, they remember. And then it zooms out the window, out of their neighborhood, and you find out that they seem to be imprisoned in a snow globe. So, with that being said, how do you interpret the ending, T?
So I thought it was a super depressing ending that they're now trapped for all eternity inside this snow globe. Because one of my justifications for this is the fact that when he wakes up, the color's all wrong.
Yeah,
Some
it's
there
very
was
like saturated and extremely more colorful, and almost it kind of looks like a Christmas card. That should be kind of a bit of a hint that something's up.
that's
It
a yeah.
looks too
I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So I walked away from the movie being like, okay, they're now imprisoned in the snow globe because they couldn't behave or something. And remember when he said, I think he told the grandmother this in his thing that she isn't taken because somebody has to be there to remember or something like that. Well,
yeah.
if you think back, the only person he doesn't take is the DHL guy. He just ends up frozen in his car. So he's the one that's going to remember. So,
So, couple of things. So one, the ending I really like. And one of the reasons I like it is because I think it has multiple interpretations. My interpretation is very similar to yours. The way I see the ending is it's kind of like a Sartre's no exit sort of situation, like
Hmm.
hell is other people. If you all hate each other so much, then you get to be around each other for the rest of eternity, and that's your hell. Like, yay, you all hate Christmas and you all hate each other, so now it's Christmas and you're stuck with each other forever. And I like that kind of creative punishment where it's not, like a horror movie, like, ooh, super gory and everyone's being murdered
I
and
actually, I
like I
actually
like
really appreciated that. I really
I like the
appreciated those light
simplicity,
and
and I
gore.
like that it feels like a Twilight Zone ending.
Yeah.
Um, but the other thing about it is, again, like you can interpret it a bunch of different ways. I've heard people say like, "Oh, they're not trapped. He's like watching them. It's like the snow globe's like a crystal ball or something, and that's why he has so many of them. It's like he's watching different people because they're on his naughty list, so to speak."
Yeah.
And I'm sure someone listening or someone who's seen the movie might even have a different take on that ending. And I like that about it because, you and me, we think they're trapped in the snow globe. And I actually think that's kind of a geniusly creative punishment for their specific Scroogery.
Hmm.
uh, but it's open ended. They don't specifically say, oh, they're trapped or this is what happens. Like it doesn't even really make sense, or not makes. It's never explicitly explained why what the snow globe is, if it is a prison or anything like that. It's just visually telling you that they're sort of being watched. At least that's all you can definitively say by what's going on.
Well, it's kind of
Um,
like it. When you look at it that way, it's kind of like that scene in the Polar Express where they have that giant, thing that has TV monitors on kids all over the world.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
but
And
because this is such an old tradition, and instead of TVs, they rely on snow globes. That's kind of interesting thing of it too.
or it's Krampus's own version of Christmas magic from from Santa. But yeah, like so, you and I seem to have kind of the same interpretation of the ending, but I feel like you could ask a bunch of people, and you might even get a really interesting idea of what that ending signifies, and I like that. Because I like it when people have interesting readings of things like that. But I like the ending. It really won it over for me. It kind of feels almost sort of like a fable or like a spooky kind of fairy tale Christmas thing, almost like a
Right.
Grimm's fairy tale where there's like a spooky message to the end, like, "Oh, don't you better you better watch out, you better not cry, or Krampus
Krampus
will trap you in a snow
snow
globe."
globe forever.
Well,
Uh,
and again, that's the other thing with my problem with him trapping other people in the snow globe is the reason I like it for their family is that was what they hated. You know what? Like that's why it felt like a creative punishment.
yeah.
Because specifically, they were all talking about how much they hate Christmas and they hate when their family is visiting. So if he just does that with every family, it's like man, the Christmas sucks. Like then it's not very creative anymore. It's just what he does. He imprisons you in a snow globe. So I guess that's like sort of the mixed feeling I have. I like the fact that it is an open ended ending, but if that's just what he does, then it's not very interesting. But again, like it's at least good for like a family scary movie because it's a grim ending. It's a bit of a spooky idea, but it's not over the top. No one's
Yes.
getting decapitated.
Thank God. I was like, I don't want to see any gore. I actually did not look at the parents' guide this time. I was like, okay, I trust Whiskey. I know he's
Yeah,
not going
and
to
I
try to
was
ruin
right.
my
There's no
holiday.
gore.
But going back to the ending though, what's the only thing that kind of ruins my interpretation is, well, what about the other people that went missing within their
Oh,
universe?
yes, I almost forgot. I knew I was leaving something out. So my interpretation of that is that they weren't real. That they were, and again, this isn't me being like this is it, and I'm right, and I've got proof. This is just how the way I see it is that was all like illusions. That Krampus like that wasn't a real mailman, and that wasn't really her boyfriend. Like because they're not involved. You know what I mean? Like the family is his target. So like he's creating And that too, actually, the girl only speaks to her boyfriend via FaceTime or Skype or whatever it was the night before. So she, in fact, that's why she goes to his house, is she's not able to contact him. Right? So,
Oh,
like,
that's
my
right.
interpretation is that he is not being punished. He's probably enjoying his Christmas Eve being like, why isn't my girlfriend answering my texts?
Well,
She
because
must be cheating on me. I don't know.
she's
But,
going
and
through
same
the
thing,
7 levels of hell.
also, the delivery guy, I don't believe he's real, because also he delivers Krampus's presents.
That's
right?
right. I forgot about that. I was
So-
actually about to say what that was so poignant. What was the point of that? And then I was like, and then as soon as you said, I'm like, oh, that's right. That's where they get all those presents from.
So, I'm sure someone else would have a different interpretation, but at least in my headcanon, none of them are real. They're all, like, either not real people, or in the boyfriend's case, he's enjoying his Christmas normally, wondering where his girlfriend is. Like,
So basically,
it's all just illusions made by Krampus to lure them out, or get the presents in their house, or whatever he needs to happen.
so what you're saying is essentially this explains all the cases of families who go missing over Christmas.
They should have had more Christmas spirit. Krampus is unforgiving.
So basically, like, so your explanation is essentially that they're kind of like moved out of that plane of existence.
Exactly.
Into this
As
one.
soon as Krampus is summoned and the note goes out the window for those days that they're stranded and in that blizzard, they're on an island. Like, they could drive for miles in a direction and they'll never reach town. They are essentially already stuck in that snow globe. Like, everything happening to them, there are no other people. Like, they're either fake or, like, something. Like, maybe it's two... the delivery guy, it's just two of those elves wearing a human costume standing on each other's shoulders.
Right, and then I guess the other things like the snow plow with the missing guy and
Exactly.
and
So that's my
that's all
interpretation.
props to build the fear.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. So, and anyway, again, like, I'd love to hear, if you're watching or listening to this on YouTube, like, I'd love to hear your comments of what you think happened. But that's at least my interpretation, is those people are safe and fine and enjoying their Christmas.
Well-
It's just...
Well, my thing is, like, I love how DHL is just like, yeah, we're sponsored by Krampus. I mean, that's just like, but it's like, it's so obvious, like, that was like a sponsorship right there.
Well, and I mean, that's the thing. Like, obviously, there is a market for horror. You can see it just by the fact that this made $1 million more than its budget just in the opening weekend. Like, people wanted to see this movie, even if it is just a fringe group of people who like spooky stuff like myself. But there is a market to this, and there is something actually kind of funny. Like, side note, and maybe we'll cover this film in the future, but there is a fun little 80s horror movie called The Stuff,
I don't like
and it's
that.
about killer ice cream.
Oh my god.
Essentially, it's, again, maybe we should cover it in the future,
Is
but the
this
ice
like that-
cream is like an...
Is
The
this
ice cream's like an alien, and if you eat it, you get possessed and become like an alien monster. But even though it was like a little indie horror movie, some ice cream company, I don't know if it was Haagen-Dazs or Ben & Jerry's, or someone actually did do a sponsorship with The Stuff
Oh my
and
God.
released, like...
the stuff ice
It's
cream?
The Stuff ice cream.
Oh my god.
Which, honestly, I kind of think it would be a great remake, and you could easily, like, Baskin-Robbins has, like, a new The Stuff Sundae or something.
So the ice
But yeah,
cream,
so, like,
the
it's
ice
not
cream
that-
takes over the people. It's not like that one weird movie I've seen online where it's like the sushi starts eating people.
It's kind of like, it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, except it's like once you eat the ice cream, you become, like, incredible, like, you need the ice cream, like, you're obsessed with eating more of it, and then you, like, the ice cream controls you and stuff. It's, again, like, maybe we should review it in the future, but anyway, like, there you go, a weird indie horror movie from the 80s that got sponsored by, like, an ice cream company.
Oh my god.
And that's a great way to get your budget for your movie. Like, oh, hey, Krampus delivers his evil toys to the house. Let's have the delivery guy be from FedEx or something.
DHL, don't take this from them.
Krampus 2,
DHL presents.
right?
Well, just overall, the movie kind of reminds me. I feel like it's a little like you're talking about it being a family formula. I feel like it would have been a little scary for me as a kid, but I kind of feel like it would have also been scary in the way that like Jumanji used to be scary to me. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Well, and there is a this is the reason PG-13 exists, right? You know, like the movies that prompted the MPAA to create that rating were movies like Gremlins, Poltergeist, Temple of Doom, like these sort of weird gray areas where they are very not suitable for kids, but also not so graphic that like you have to be an adult to see them.
Right.
Gremlins is a perfect example where at least 50 to 75% of the movie is just a cute little, you know, like, oh, here's this fun fictional pet and it's teaching you not to break the rules. Like if you have a pet, be responsible and follow the rules.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know, the one that scarred me as a kid, Poltergeist, where you have, you know, essentially the story of like a family trying to get their daughter back from ghosts, but then you have scenes of a guy ripping his face off.
Oh my god.
Have you not seen Poltergeist?
I have not seen Poltergeist.
Oh man, we need to put that on the list.
I do.
But anyway,
I will say, fun little side trip. You've played Skyrim, right?
of course.
So,
Who hasn't?
okay, weirdos.
Like
apparently.
like this podcast, click like on YouTube or Spotify or whatever if you've played Skyrim.
So no, there's one of the side missions or whatever is you go to this house to find some guy, and
Oh, is it the House of Horrors?
no, it's not. No, the House of Horrors is the one where he was like a murderer or somebody. No, but
No. It's the Mace of Malag Ball where there was like a ritual in the basement. But anyway, like which quest is it? Just
I forget what it's called, but anyway, there's a part where you walk into the house and all the chairs are from the table are stacked on the table, and I was like, that was totally supposed to be a reference to Poltergeist.
Oh yes, yes it was. And that's actually, God, we're just talking about movies we should review in the future. But yeah, so this is like, it's a perfect PG-13 movie. I have my criticisms about its structure, its pacing, and some other things, but overall, like, it's fine. You know, every movie is someone's favorite movie, so I'm sure there are big Krampus fans out there.
Well,
in my opinion, this is like a C tier movie. It's very good. It's very entertaining. Not my favorite Christmas movie. Not my favorite horror comedy. Not my favorite horror movie. But it's very fun and silly. And
well,
you know what? What about Krampus's? Like, are you aware of like Krampus's design compared to how he's supposed to look? Or because that was something I was kind of I thought was interesting, because that's the big reveal, right? In any monster movie, you don't show the monster until the end of the film, and that was something I was really excited to see the first time I saw this movie, and I was sort of disappointed, but then his design grew on me over time. But what did you think about it?
I actually kind of liked his design, because to me, he wasn't outwardly, oh no, he wasn't like trying to be scary. Do you know what I mean? It was like it was the mixture of him, the situation, and his attitude that made him scary. And I think that's more interesting than trying to make the person look visually scary. Like, that's one of my problems with the Annabelle movies. Is I feel like one of my many problems with the Annabelle is they tried too hard to make her look as terrifying as possible, to the point to where it's kind of just like, seriously, this is what you came up with. But I feel like the way he looks, I feel like he could have been used almost in his character could have been used in a character that was good, and he would have not have been scary. And so to me, that's what makes him scarier. Is his character design mixed with what he represents and his attitude and all that sort of stuff. So I actually kind of thought it's, because to me it was very understated, but I thought it was perfect.
It grew on me. I was a little disappointed when I first saw this movie that, because again, if you look at like the old like 17th century drawings of Krampus and stuff, he looks like the devil with like a
Oh my God.
with a sleigh and all this other stuff. So I was kind of expecting him to look closer to that or have like a goat head or something. But the more I thought about it after initially seeing the movie, and even going back to it now, I actually kind of like his weird, twisted Santa Claus face.
Yeah.
Because even the way Omi describes him, he's Saint Nicholas's shadow or whatever. Like, I like that he has a Santa face that's like disfigured.
Yes.
It shows that it's like he's still performing kind of a Christmas function, but like not the one people like to think about.
He's Christmas adjacent.
Exactly, and it also kind of humanizes him a little bit. I don't know. That's a weird thing to say, but like having a human face.
That's what, to me, that's one of the things that worked for me. I said like you could put his character design in a different story with a different setting and have him be good, and he wouldn't be scary. And I think that's what I think that kind of makes him more terrifying.
Well, and again, like the interesting thing about him as like a movie monster is that he's not really evil or doing anything bad. He's punishing people, and that's kind of the big distinction. And I think what really separates this from being like an R-rated movie is he's not killing anybody. He's he's taking people away before you know what his punishment is. Mm-hmm. You could be like, oh, of course they're dead or whatever, but you never see anyone die. There's no gore. Mm-hmm. But that's not his he's never, even in the actual like myth or whatever you want to call it, he doesn't kill people. He mostly gives out spankings. Like, like if you believed in Krampus the same way you believed in Santa Claus, if you were on Krampus's list, he would come over and spank your butt with a switch. And that's what would happen to you.
I remember that's how I learned the word switch, was actually from exactly what you described, where we had Christmas around the world. That was like my favorite time of year. I love doing that.
Right? But yeah, so that's the interesting thing about him as a movie monster, is he's not really dangerous. Like he's gonna punish you, but that kind of depends on what you did. And
I still thought again, with the
context of the ending,
I still thought it was a little severe for what ultimately happened.
The problem is that it should have just been the visiting family getting punished. That's the biggest problem with the movie, is that the host family doesn't really deserve anything that happened. But again, like getting trapped, and again, that too, you and I interpret that ending as they're trapped in the ball, but for all we know, they're fine, and that's just he's watching them. Like he's making sure that they don't do something in the future. Like for all we know, it is Christmas normally and they have been spared and he's just watching them or something. But even if they're trapped in the ball, in the snow globe, it's like that's not as bad as and who knows, maybe he'll let them out once they get the Christmas spirit. I mean, if the way I interpret the ending is to be understood, it's technically Christmas every day in there, right? So that's a new. Well, we've talked about Groundhog Day in the past. We know that's one of your biggest fears, is being stuck in the same day over and over again. So I will say your own personal hell.
Groundhog Day is one of the greatest horror comedies ever made.
But yeah, so I don't know. Someone like me, if I'm trapped in Krampus's snow globe, I'd be like, well, this is an opportunity to strengthen our bond as a family. Like, we're trapped in here for a reason. Maybe we should get to know each other a little better. Well, who knows? Maybe if you do that, he'll let you out. But that's, again, like that's one of the kind of interesting things that does.
He lets you out when the punishment stops being a punishment.
Exactly. Who knows? It's not explained.
Well, what's interesting, what you described about the only people who really deserved it were the visiting family. So, and we talked about how these people were kind of moved out of their own plane of existence to essentially a duplicate plane for this all to take place. So, with that being said, maybe the actual family was they were props.
Or maybe they were dreaming about it happening.
Yes.
Before. Again, this is why I like the ending, is it's very open-ended, and you can come up with an endless amount of theories as to what happened. Well, that's part of the reason, like, Krampus is interesting, is because he didn't kill anybody. Yeah. No one was harmed in this Christmas nightmare. He didn't kill anybody. He didn't maim anybody. Like, he's scaring them considerably, but that's the worst that he's doing.
Well, and then I was also gonna say because I know you'd mentioned you're like I'm not sure if anybody really this is their favorite movie or whatever. When I was I had to search for this to find it online somewhere. So for the next few days, I kept hitting Krampus come by search results. There are several movie sites put out articles about Krampus and like talking about how it's following or things you didn't know about. So there is still enough of at least a market out there for these movie blogs, movie news sites to put out articles about Krampus, 6 years later.
Yeah. I'm not surprised if it's like a cult hit or something. And again, like, despite my criticisms and this being kind of a middle of the road movie for me, if it's someone's favorite movie, all the power to them. I think the special effects are really good. Again, the sound design was crazy. Like, I was watching this with my family, and my dad has like a pretty sweet home theater setup, so just hearing the like surround sound and stuff, I was like, "Whoa, this is way better."
We're
And
being
probably because I was watching it on my
surround
laptop the first
sound.
time. Yeah, exactly. So it's a very well made movie.
Yeah,
and
it
it's
is.
perfect for like families if you're looking to see something a little bit spooky or something. My only problem is that the way that it's structured makes it kind of boring.
Yeah.
And it's so strange to say that because when you tell someone what happens in this movie, they'd probably be like, "How's that boring? Like, there's a giant Jack in the Box eating people alive. How is that boring to you?" But
And
like,
it's
I don't
like,
know,
just
something about
wait.
that. Yeah, something about that midsection. And then my biggest criticism, and I wonder if you're even going to remember that this happened. I hate it when horror movies do this. It is so cheap and stupid. And another great movie I will call out for doing this is Sinister. But the very end of the film, as they're panning out to all the snow globes, there's that one last stupid jump scare that they do.
Yeah. I forgot
I
about
hate
that.
that. That's like the biggest problem with this movie. If you eliminated that, this would go up to like B tier. I forgot that was happening, and then when my family finished the movie, I was just like, okay, no,
No. You were like,
not funny.
And pass. No. But
That's Sinister's another one maybe we'll talk about on this show, but it is perfect. It is literally a perfect movie, and then they have a dumb jump scare right before the credits, and it's like, ugh, it's so dumb. And
you
it's
know
not
why
scary.
it's there, right? Jesus saw the movie and thought it was too perfect and was like, put something in to bring it down a tier. Thank you.
Right? He was like,
it's too good.
This might actually decrease sinning on Christmas because it's so good. It warns people of their immortal souls being punished forever. So, we need to make it a little dumb. We need to lower the quality of this somewhat.
Oh my god! I just thought of. There was this meme that went around like a couple years ago, but it's like a Photoshop picture of Jesus holding a phone. He's taking a selfie in a bathroom mirror, and it's like about to step out for that birthday flow. I don't know why it's not bad. I love that one.
For anyone who's listening who's confused, Sweet Tea calls memes memes.
Yeah, because it's how it's spelled. Y'all are weird.
Okay, Jan.
So, that was interesting. And I sent you during when we watched it. I'm like, hey, do you recognize anybody? I sent you a clip from one of my favorite one of my favorite.
And it's
Adam
comedies. Scott. It's Adam Scott, but I didn't recognize him in the clip you sent me. I should have rewatched it, but again, he's in everything, man. He's in Parks and Rec. He's in Step Brothers.
I was saying it's funny because you were like you're like, oh, I know him from like Parks and Rec, and I'm like, every time I see him in something now, I'm like, oh, he's J-Lo's gay best friend. He will always be J-Lo's gay best friend. Like he was also in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty as this really kind of like jerky boss guy, and I'm like, and it's J-Lo's gay best friend again.
Everyone knows him from Parks and Rec, but my favorite thing that he was in. Have you seen Step Brothers?
Yes, a long time ago.
So do you remember Will Ferrell's brother who's like, or not, it's actually, it's the other guy. It's one of their brothers, like biological brothers, and he's super successful and he's really mean. He owns a helicopter rental company.
I think so. That's him. That's Adam Scott.
That's him. He's actually really, I think he's, everyone thinks of him as like this really sweet, nerdy guy from Parks and Rec. I think he excels at playing a jerk. Well, this movie isn't even this is an example of him being a really nice, wholesome character, but he is so good if you cast him as a villain. He is so good at being a jerk.
Actually, just I actually can see because he's great in Walter Mitty as the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh my god! You know, I need to see more Adam Scott movies where he's obnoxious.
Yeah, again, he's everyone thinks of him as like this sweet guy, and he is as like a real person too. He seems really nice, but he is so good at playing a bad guy. So this is not a good example movie because he's very wholesome and nice in this. But yeah, and that too. Again, like I only listed kind of names people would recognize, but this cast was really stacked. A lot of people want to do this. Probably because it's a novel idea. Again, like horror comedy Christmas movies don't come very frequently. Like horror Christmas movies in general is like a subgenre, and I can think of a few. There's Jack Frost, Gremlins. I would consider a Christmas horror movie. You've got Santa Slays. You've got Silent Night, Deadly Night. It's like a whole thing.
You got
You've
Black
even got
Christmas.
Arguably the first slasher film period is Black Christmas. Halloween popularized the genre, but arguably the first slasher was Black Christmas. And then you can get into semantics.
Can't they leave the wholesome holidays alone, please? Like y'all have your own holiday. Stay there.
Hide your holidays.
Yeah, basically hide your holidays, people.
Hide your holidays. They coming for them.
Why are there no Hanukkah horror movies? I mean,
I guarantee there are.
I mean, I guess Santa's sleigh kind of has a little bit of Hanukkah.
Santa's Slays is pretty funny, actually. It's also a horror comedy. The idea is that Santa is like
he's like a demon who is punished.
And so it's like this really buff, angry Santa, just like, and he's kind of based on like Norse characters, so he's almost like a Viking Santa. So that's
he stabs somebody with their menorah, right?
I think so.
Okay.
But yeah, there's like a whole. I guarantee there. I'm sure there's like who. Again, if you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a comment. We'd be happy to cover like a Hanukkah movie next year. Hanukkah horror movie would be cool.
Because my extent of knowledge,
I'm sure they exist.
My extent of knowledge of Hanukkah movies is The Diary of Anne Frank. So if you don't recommend anything, that's what we're watching.
Oh, there's actually, like, just as far as comedies go, right off the top of my head, 8 Crazy Nights, the Adam Sandler animated film. That's considered. I consider that a Hanukkah movie, even though it's like Hanukkah and Christmas.
I'm trying to think of now. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Absolutely. But anyway, so I was actually kind of curious since you wanted to get to. Well, I know part of it is you wanted to leave off on a hopeful note, but I was worried that maybe you hated this one. So
I did not. I did not hate it. I would not say I hated Space Stretch the Imagination, but because of the whole middle section, I was kind of left very meh about it.
Yeah, hilariously, you and I are kind of on the same page.
I'm I'm not saying I don't recommend it, but I also can't say I'm very on the fence about this one.
Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's not the greatest. Any kind of movie that it is, it's not the best example. It's not the best Christmas movie. It's not the best horror movie. It's not the best comedy. It's not the best horror comedy. It's, it's right there in the middle. It's not bad, but again, any movie, and this isn't just me, literally, any movie is somebody's favorite movie.
Yeah. So
this is their favorite movie, but I feel like for the vast majority of people, this will just be like a good killer of 90 minutes. If you're like, people are off doing their own thing on Christmas or cooking dinner or something, and you just want to kill some time, this could be something great if you find it on TV or something. If you're a horror fan, there's probably better horror Christmas movies. But again, this is you know what this is? I've even kind of coined this term with you outside of the show, but this is actually, maybe I've even coined the term in the show. It's hard to tell. We've been doing this show for almost 2 years now. But this is a TV movie, and I don't mean a made-for-TV movie. This is a movie that if you see it on FX or something, it's like, oh, this will be great. You pop it on. This isn't something I would say you seek out and see.
Yeah.
But if it's ever on or available on streaming that you already are paying for or something, it's worth a watch. but
I
I would not
I was
recommend it in the same sense that you go out and like, oh, you need to see this movie.
I was actually going to say the same thing because that's ironically how I saw it was because since it's Christmas time, I think FX is running it right now, so it's available on demand. But I was going to say the same thing. It's like this is not a movie I would seek out to see again. But like I'm like if I'm like scrolling through and I'm like, oh, this is on, and I basically don't need to focus on the TV, like background noise almost. I put it on.
Yeah. This is, I forget, I think maybe it's partly because I watched this when I was visiting for Thanksgiving, but this is a Universal film, so if Comcast doesn't have this on Peacock, I don't know what they're doing because I don't really know what other good like Christmas movies
Well,
Universal has.
well,
Um,
just speaking as somebody who does work in this particular field, if Peacock is having on, that's probably because
of
it's
contracts,
it's
I
a
got that,
contract
but
and it's
like,
probably more lucrative for them to rent it out to them because I feel like this is a movie that will become popular uh due
oh yeah,
due to
it's
Eric's reviews. It's kind of like what happened with Shawshank Redemption.
well they call
No one saw that movie when it came out. Everybody thought it was meh, and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about how great it is all of a sudden because they spent hours watching it because it used to run on FX like all the time after Law and Order was over.
well, this is what they call a cult movie in the making. So
Yeah.
like, you know, a movie that has a very devoted fan base of just like a tight knit group of like maybe a couple thousand people.
Right.
Or, you know, maybe like people do like midnight screenings of it around Christmas or something like
And
that.
they
You know, I
throw
could,
food at the screen because it's so bad. I'm just kidding.
yeah, actually, you know, my sister sent me a video. Hilariously, like she didn't know that I was watching this for the show. But she sent me this video of this guy who makes. He's like an artist and he has a YouTube channel and he made a like full. I'll send it to you after we end this recording. But like he made a full Krampus like figurine
Oh wow.
like 2 feet tall and stuff, and the whole video is like the whole process of him doing it, but it looks really cool, and just the fact that there's like someone able to make this incredibly detailed artwork
Right.
of this movie shows that people like it, and that's the thing. Like if a Christmas horror movie is up your alley, if you love all those other Christmas horror movies, then I highly recommend this to you.
Yeah.
To the vast majority of our listeners, I'd say if you happen across this during the holidays, then check it out. But don't pay money. Like don't if you're not sure if this is your thing, don't seek it out. That's kind of my recommendation. If you are able to see this for free somehow, either it's included in your streaming or something, check it out. But otherwise, watch your favorite Christmas movie.
Or if you absolutely love this one, I happen to know Best Buy has Blu-ray copies for $7.99. Not sponsored.
There you go. Best Buy, every Blu-ray at Best Buy is $7.99. That's like my place to get movies. Honestly, most of the time they're even cheaper than Amazon. I love it.
I mean,
I personally
just went and picked up for $26 the 4K Charlie Brown specials, holiday specials, and the Rankin Bass holiday specials for $26, and I'm just like over the moon because you know me, I'm very wholesome this time of year, baking cookies and singing carols.
Well,
anyway,
so it sounds like you and I are pretty much on the same page.
Right?
Like this is a C movie.
Do we have a rating for this? Because like I said, it wasn't like bad enough for me to give it like a not recommend, but I also said I can't recommend it. So what do we call this? Do we just call this an on the fence movie or?
As I said, this is a if you can see it for free, check it out. Movie.
Okay, we'll right now. So I'm gonna say it too. If you can see it for free and you have 90 minutes to kill, and you don't want to pay attention to TV, watch it.
I was giving it a letter grade. Like if I was a teacher, you know, like A is like an excellent thing. Like I give it a C. It passed. It checks all the marks. It's entertaining. It's spooky. It's got all that stuff. But
I'm gonna be more positive. I'm gonna give it a C plus.
There you go. Exactly. So anyway, tell us what you think. Is this your favorite Christmas movie? Let us know in the comments. You know, give us a like, subscribe. If you're watching this on Spotify, check out one of our many other reviews. And if you want us to review something in the future, please yell at us on Twitter. We are receptive, and since it's the end of the year, we are looking to suggestions for next year's roster of movies that we'll be looking for.
Yes, please tweet at us because Whiskey and I will be sitting down in January to decide what's going to make the cut. And if not,
And
it's just going to be
it's
just going to be movies that we've picked.
We're flexible too. Again, like if you tweet at us and it's relevant or it just piques our interest, we'll check it out.
Yes.
So do not be afraid to reach out to us. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. We've only got one more episode for the year. How crazy is that?
Oh my god,
it feels like it's blown by.
But I feel like if you agreed with our interpretation of the ending of this movie, I feel like the next movie will leave you a little more hopeful.
I think so too. It's a good one. Both of these movies for Christmas have been good picks.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, thank you so much, guys, and thank you for listening to us. Stay thirsty.
See ya. Reels on the Rocks is a production of La Prince Laboratories. It is edited and produced by Alejandro Castillo and features original artwork by Asa Esparza and original music by Pat Mars. Follow us on Twitter at Reels on the Rocks and tweet at us with any movies or topics you'd like us to discuss in the future.